Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast, where we discuss all things ranging from love, relationships, authenticity, fulfillment, to lessons from plant medicine journeys, inner healing, and living your truth. I'm not your teacher, I'm only your fellow student. Occasionally, you also get to hear some of my own healing process and journey back to love. The point of the program? That you take away at least one actionable piece of knowledge that supports you in expanding whatever aspect of your life your heart most desires. My name is Cesar Rodriguez. I will be your host, and I am honored to have you here. Happy listening. Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast. I am your host, as you already know. Thank you for being here today. I have an amazing guest here with me. I am so excited to introduce you to her. She's become a dear friend of mine, and boy, oh boy, is this woman a master of her craft. So to properly introduce her, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So hang on to your seats because she's got credentials to spare. So here we go. Ready? Cristina Kalyani began studying yoga at age 11. At age 18, she started teaching in many alternative communities in Brazil, then enrolled as a full-time student in UNI Yoga School. She did 500 hours of advanced course study in classic Hatha Yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Ayurvedic and yogic lifestyle in Yoga Vidya Dham School from India. She was initiated into Karma Sannyasa from Swami Satsang Ananda Saraswati in Bihar School of Yoga. She is certified level 2 course in quantum healing hypnosis technique with Dolores Cannon, and also studies with Dr. Brian Weiss, PhD psychiatrist, hypnotherapist, also the author of the best-selling book, Many Lives, Many Masters, a book that I love, by the way. She is on her way to receive a certification on transpersonal psychology and holotropic breathwork with Stanislav Grof of Transpersonal Training. She has led retreats and workshops in many festivals such as ENCA, Encounter of National Communities, and Vision Festival in Costa Rica, Decompression Festival, Cosmic Convergence, Sound and Silence, and Boom Festival. She's a certified Akashic Records Reader. She has been providing bodywork, Reiki, and tuning fork therapy since 2003. She's a sound healing practitioner certified at the School of Sonoterapia from Spain. She offers online yoga and meditation courses in the We Burn app. She completed a 1.5-year pilgrimage from Ecuador to Peru by horse, presenting asana choreography and fire dancing. She worked 17 years on one of the first surf and yoga camps for women. She has traveled about 40 countries and has led retreats around the globe. She has worked with yoga, ceremony, meditation, chromotherapy, hypnotherapy, Reiki, and healing massages. She has provided some of her various healing modalities to celebrities such as Gisele Bündchen, Olsen twins, Jill Hennessy, Mel Gibson, Leonardo DiCaprio, Gwyneth Paltrow, Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, and many others. She has been featured in a few books, including Gisele Bündchen's autobiography called Lessons, and The Nature of Yoga by Bill Tipper, as well as many magazines like Yoga Journal, Happiness Magazines, and others. Currently, she offers weekly classes, workshops, retreats, and one-on-one sessions at her studio, which we are in right now, called Casa Om Center of Healing Arts in Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, where she's been living since 2001. Wow. Welcome, Cristina Kalyani, to the Love is Our Nature podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I am great. Thank you. I feel honored for the invitation.
Thanks. Honor is all mine. This woman is an elder of this town, all right, whether she likes to admit it or not. And you have been around here since 2001, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was a much different place back then, wasn't it?
Yes, very much different. Yeah.
I got here in March of last year, almost 2 years. So I have no idea what it was like back then. I've only heard some anecdotes here and there. What was this place like when you arrived, and why did you even move here at that time?
Yeah, well, I arrived here 21 years ago and there was absolutely nothing. Just one dirty street and a lot of surfers men, very little women. Yeah, there was absolutely nothing. Why I came here, I had no idea. I was on this horse caravan. I had a monkey and a dog with me and 15 horses and 12 people from all over the world. And I was tired of the mountains. So the horse caravan was through Ecuador and Peru in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I'm from an island called Florianópolis in the South Brazil. So I like surfing. I like beach. I knew I had to come to Costa Rica. I just didn't know why. Yeah, I was just like this feeling, the following the inner instinct.
I see. Okay, and you followed that, and you went, and you said, and have you been living in this property ever since?
No, I brought this property maybe 14 years.
14 years ago.
Yeah, 14 years ago, and I have the house for like 11 years.
Yeah. By the way, we're at her place now. I drove here. It's rainy season. It's almost a death trap to get over here. So
it's not so bad. You can come.
I can't imagine. No, definitely come. It's very well. It's totally worth the drive, and actually a lot of fun, and it's an adventure. And I actually really enjoyed it. But I wonder, I asked myself, what must it have looked like back when you first moved here?
Yeah, it's actually in the green season here where I have my house. It hasn't changed that much. Of course, there's way more houses now. I was one of the first houses in the street. And we didn't even have the electricity on the road. I had electricity in my house, but not like in the road. So I had to ask for it.
I see.
I was a bit scary of coming back home at night. It was pretty dark.
Wow. Yeah. I'm scared of going back home later myself.
7 minutes drive from Hermosa Beach, actually, which is one of the most beautiful beaches in Costa Rica.
Yes. Gorgeous beach.
Very well located. And between Hermosa Beach and Manzanillo Beach.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I think I just happen to live in way the opposite end.
Yes,
Yeah. So... and the sunsets in Hermosa are also epic. So if you haven't been to Santa Teresa or Playa Hermosa in Costa Rica, definitely come visit. And why I was inspired to bring Kalyani, which is what we call her as endearment, is because this woman, you heard it in the intro, every modality of healing, she's been there, so I am so curious to, number one, learn more about your drive and motivation to immerse yourself in this field of healing, and also shed some light in what that is. Why is that work important? Because I think there's a lot of people like how I used to be just a few years ago. If you told me healing, I wouldn't even know what you're talking about. What is there to heal about? So. Yeah, why don't we start with that, and then I'll definitely want to know how you even got into this work, or you start from wherever you want. What would you say? So
I didn't know that I work in healing arts. That was something I just started calling because I never had. Let's start by saying that I never had a normal job as I started teaching yoga at the age of 18. But even before that, why I came to yoga at very young age, since I can remember, I was fascinated by the mysteries of life. And when I was about 8 years old, I told my father that one day I'll travel the world and I'll have the wisdom of the world inside myself. And my father was a Freudian psychologist, by the way. And I would be reading books of Hermann Hesse and Richard Bach and philosophy. And I was in love with the mystery of living since ever. And I was always following the call, what comes next to me, So I thought it was yoga in the beginning. So from this quest of who am I, where do I come from, and what I'm doing here, many philosophical systems came to exist, and that was my quest. My dream was to be a hermit and a pilgrim when I was 8. So I was in this quest. The pilgrim through life was myself. And yoga was the first philosophical system that brought me into this path of self-discovery. So for me, yoga was not about physical postures and asanas, was about answering those philosophical fundamental questions about life. So that was how I started teaching yoga at 18. And through life, and then I also was living through communities, spiritual communities that I learned about the Hare Krishnas when I was 15. And when I was 19, I went to live in a Hare Krishna temple in Chile, another country. I left my family. I said, okay, I'll follow Krishna. And
at 15?
At 15, was 15? No. At 15, I met the Hare Krishnas for the first time. And at 19, 18, 19, I went to live in the Hare Krishna temple. I lived in Osho communities. I lived in alternative communities, always asking for wisdom, and mastery. And then when I fast forward and I came to Costa Rica, half of my life after, well, I'm not that old, but yoga was very popular. And here in Costa Rica, working mostly with Americans, at that time, it was in fashion to use yoga for fitness almost, for the physical body. So I was getting a bit frustrated. And at the same time, that was my living, right? So I had to give what people wanted, not what I wanted to give to people. And every time I would speak about the philosophy of yoga and things, at that time wasn't so welcomed. So I remember and I work mostly with private classes, private clients. So I always ask them, so what do you expect from this class? What do you want to gain? And they would be like, I want to sweat. And I was like, okay, so this is what yoga is. But now I'll give you what you want. And I would make them sweat. They're like, but, so in a way I felt that I was prostituting my beliefs for the money that I had to make. So that was a little bit the way how I left the yoga world for a little bit. And I started questioning, okay, what comes next? And always asking those questions, who are my teachers? What do I need to do next? And came travels through India and mantra chantings and meditations. And then because of some very personal reasons, I wanted to study with Dolores Cannon, hypnotherapy or quantum healing hypnosis technique. And then I started deepening into hypnosis and hypnotherapy. For me, everything that I do is within the yoga tradition in a way, because hypnosis works with the psychic mind, the subconscious mind. And then later when I decided to study breathwork, holotropic breathwork and transpersonal psychology, that deals with the etherical body and pranayama as well. So everything, it's already there in the yoga philosophy. But most of yoga teachers, they don't teach that part of yoga, right? So I just changed the names. And also from my own life journey of learning and exploring different techniques, being the scientist of my own practice, and where would that lead me? So when all these other tools and modalities came to exist in my field, as for body work, and then came sound healing. Most recently was sound healing and sound journey. That was one of the latest add-on to my work. So when I had all those tools in my fairy belt, I was thinking, I can't identify with any of those titles. When people say, oh, are you a yoga teacher? I'm like, I'm not a yoga teacher. I'm not a massage therapist. So who am I then? I never even think about these things, And then I started saying I work with healing arts. Because in a way it is that. It's healing arts.
I see.
It's a modality of art.
Beautiful. And so it sounds like early on you started asking yourself some big questions in your life, right? You said, you asked yourself, who am I? What am I doing here? What were the answers to those questions for you back then? And are the answers to those questions what drove you down this path?
Yeah. When I was about 11 years old, I locked myself in my bedroom for 3 days. And I wrote a manuscript called The Pilgrim in Search of Self. And this day I know that pilgrim is myself. And that search is the search that we all are throughout life. And I always feel that the tools are very important for us to keep us in our track of not getting too identified with the tricks of the mind. I call mind fuck. I don't know if I can say that word here.
That's okay.
But the mind goes, we go up, we go down, right? One day we're good, one day you're not so good. And it's not about the external. The external also, of course, it influences when you have no money for buying food and you have your kids to feed. Of course, all those things are important. But even when we have everything, the basic fulfilled, our mind still goes into finding problems. My teacher from India, she used to say, mind likes problems. The mind is always looking, searching for problems. When everything in life is settled, you'll find something that makes you unsatisfied. And that is where the tools come in. So we use those tools to help us remember who we are and disidentify with that mask of who we think that we are. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. You definitely started to. And it raises another question. How does an 11-year-old start writing a 3-day journal entry of the search or the pilgrimage of self?
Yeah. That was weird. That was weird.
It took me for a long time. I never believed in reincarnation, but then, doing research out there and started seeing all these kids that remembered like their buddy soldiers from like World War II or something. And eventually parents took them to certain places and they couldn't help but like see that, wow, these names you've been naming, like they're real, and I started believing in reincarnation, so hearing that story strikes me as like one of those stories, that you came back from some probably like master study from a past life and you're like, all right, it's time I get back to where I left off.
Exactly. That's what I believe. And I had a bunch of experiences as a child, which led me to at age 14 have therapy with a parapsychologist, with the psychology that study paranormal powers. So I had memories from other lives, and that's common actually in children. Okay, it's not so uncommon. From 0 to 5, we still remember many things, which these days, even with all the extensive work I have done in this field, I still keep questioning myself if knowing about epigenetics and all what we know now in science and quantum physics, I still have this question if what we know is really a past life, is something that we lived before as a soul, or is a memory that we carry in our cellular coding from our ancestors, or both. But I did had memories of other times as a child. I also had experience, out-of-body experience when I was 12. So I was having actually have bad dreams, and suddenly I saw myself outside my body, standing, looking at myself lying in bed. So, when you're 12, when you're children, and you experience that, you start thinking, okay, if I'm not my body, who am I, right? Again, back to the fundamental questions of life. So I could hear things that a lot of people could not. I had visitations when I was a child. So I remember when I was about 10, I think, a teacher in the school asked her to write about the Second World War, I think it was. I don't remember, but it was something about, the French Revolution.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly the story, but I told her, I wrote down all these things, and she asked me, how do you know all of that? And I told her, I said, I remember.
Wow.
And she was white and looked at me like, okay, I'm not the crazy child.
Had I not read actually the book by the guy who you studied under, Many Lives, Many Masters, I would probably also still think that a lot of this stuff is crazy, and I'm sure most people listening to this probably haven't given too much thought to reincarnation, but I mean, I definitely invite you to read that book, Many Lives, Many Masters. He was a professor at the University of Miami, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where I'm from. Yeah. And I think I remember that much. And that's when he's taking this woman. He was kind of like a regular psychologist, right? And taking this woman through hypnosis.
Psychiatrist.
Through hypnosis psychiatrist, taking her back to earlier memories to try to find out where her trauma came from.
Yeah.
Until eventually, all of a sudden, he takes her so far back, she's like describing a completely different life. Her voice sounds different, and then he's like, "Oh my God! Like, is this like a past life?"
She started to tap into her paranormal powers or super consciousness. So we can see that we have a certain level of consciousness. Some people are below this consciousness, what we call a pathology, a mental disease. So certain techniques helps us to be in this, let's say, a normality, if you could call humans normal. But if we can operate well in society, so we have mental health, right? But with those techniques, we can transpass this normal state to super normal state and tap into our higher self. So Dr. Brian Weiss, he was really proving to the medical community that what he was seeing in his work was legit through those memories from past life. Now, what I tell my clients is this, which is very important, I think, is that it's not very relevant or important if what you're seeing in therapy or in session is really, truly a memory from a past life or a symbol from your subconscious or a memory from your ancestors coded in your DNA. But the question is, remembering this, realizing this, what changes in the here now for you? That is where therapy comes in, and that's why we call hypnotherapy.
Right.
Okay. It becomes therapeutic when through remembering or reliving those traumas or reliving those memories, then there's healing that comes to your life. I'll give you a simple example. I had clients that came to see me that she couldn't have babies, right? Usually a person comes to see a hypnotherapy when they already tried all doctors and all kinds of modalities and they don't know what else to do. So the doctors say her physical body is perfect, there's nothing wrong with her, but she cannot conceive. So she comes to session and she remembers a life, or sometimes several lives, where this woman died in childbirth. So our body has intelligence. Her body, her higher self protects us from being pregnant again in this life because it thinks that she can die again. So I can always have to have a conversation, a deal with the subconscious of the person and say, no, but we're in different times. We have good doctors now.
So you're having a conversation with the subconscious of the other person or the higher self, perhaps.
And then, boom, a few months later, the woman is pregnant. So just reliving or remembering these things erase that fear or that blockage that those past memories that we carry to these days. It's incredible. I love my work.
It's amazing. I have had, I guess my main healing modality, so to speak, that I've frequented the most has been plant medicine, particularly ayahuasca. So I have had pretty amazing experiences where I'm communicating with some other version of me. I don't know if you could call it higher self. The labels are interesting, but that's actually one thing that I did want to ask you about. So I love that it came up because it reminded me. What is the higher self?
What is the higher self? Is that part of us we can call the oversoul. So we can say that we have, let's start with that.
Yeah.
One good definition for what yoga is. Yoga is union between Atman and Paratman. Atman, the individual self, the small self. Paratman, the universal self. Okay. So there's a part of us that is connected with our physical body, our emotions, our mind, and all the levels of the mind. But there's another part of us that is consciousness that transpasses matter and these limitations of matter. And that is the part of us that connects our small self and the bigger self, the universal self. That's what we call our higher self.
Wow.
That part of us has memory, or the memory is memory itself, because consciousness is an amalgamation of all of our memories together, right? But our higher self has the information of everything that has ever happened in our soul's evolution.
I see. So it's like the one that's really connected with Paratman. in other words.
Yeah.
And why would you say, I mean, you shared and illustrated a beautiful example, but for somebody who's not having trouble with childbirth, what would be the benefit of connecting with their higher self or interacting with them or having their higher self interact with you in a hypnotherapy session?
That's a beautiful question. And I'm trying to teach people what I just mentioned before. When we start doing these practices, we start embodying our higher self. So what I believe is that the teachers, the rishis, the sages of ancient India, to give an example, but every society had the wise man, the wise woman, the medicine man, the medicine woman, right? To give an example, the yogis of the past, the gurus, they had embodied their higher self. You know, when is your mind, when is your ego speaking, and when is your higher mind and your super mind speaking. So you can also disidentify of those little things. To give an example, tangible example, you can say, I am sad. Or you can say, I feel sad. When you say, I am feeling sad, you're saying that you are not sadness. This is just how you feel right now. And it's okay to feel that way for whatever reasons now. But it's not who you are.
Yeah.
And when I say I am sad, I am just saying that this is who I am. So this disidentification, you see, it helps us to embody. Those techniques helps us to embody our higher self.
Yeah.
Like in the book that you just described, the woman suddenly, she started developing her extrasensories and powers.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want that?
Right.
And that's, well, we can go a little bit into conspiracy theory, but I believe that that's why the big brothers don't want us to step into that power. They want us to stay small.
Right.
But when we practice those practices and we understand our limitless self, we can recreate our life in such a healthy and expansive way. And that's why the tools are important. Now, before I forget, you mentioned something that I want to share with the public here, if you let me.
Of course.
About plant medicine.
Yeah.
As from all the bio that you read, that's something that I don't have there. That's one of the therapists.
I was actually going to ask. I was curious.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for plant medicine. I do use plants as medicine, other types of plants.
Herbs
and
and stuff.
I have experienced one time ayahuasca. But my offering to people is that you can get into those states without it. So, for instance, Stanislav Grof, one of my teachers of transpersonal psychology and holotropic breathwork, he was one of the father of transpersonal psychology and the teachers of Esalen Institute. And how they created this breathwork, first they started exploring scientifically the uses of LSD, right, with people for this expanded states of consciousness and connection with higher self. When the LSD became illegal in the United States, observing their clients, seeing that the clients through those states were doing certain type of breath work, they took the breath work and combined it with other techniques as for music and body work and created this modality called holotropic breath work. And through holotropic breath work, you can have a very similar experience as for ayahuasca or mushroom or other plant medicines. Through deep concentration, through channeling, through breathwork, through hypnosis, hypnotherapy, quantum healing hypnosis technique, shamanism. There's so many techniques of trance-induced techniques that helps us to connect with that transcendental state of mind without the need of those substances. It's just a choice. I respect all paths.
Yeah, definitely. I did do one breathwork session February of last year that was highly transformational as well, and I had an experience like if I were almost in ayahuasca. So it's so powerful how you can get there like through breathing, you know. So for all you people that are maybe not ready to do some ayahuasca or plant medicine, because I have people that tell me like, oh, I'm kind of scared of doing ayahuasca. Well, use your breath, you know.
Exactly, or hypnotherapy. I like hypnotherapy even better, if I might say.
Yeah.
Because in breath work, as the name says, there's work. it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
In hypnotherapy is relaxation.
Yeah.
And then I have also people, I think that to the media and movies, scary movies and Hollywood movies that portray hypnosis as a dangerous thing, or it's like, it's not like that, okay? So I have clients coming to me and say, oh, I'm scared of doing hypnosis, but I can come for breath work. Or do you know anyone that do ayahuasca session? I would be more scared of the other way around for sure.
After my last ceremony, I used to like, I guess, promote ayahuasca a lot more, tell almost everybody. I don't anymore. I tell people, on ayahuasca is not for everybody, and so don't do it unless you're ready to die, because sometimes you'll have the experience that you're gonna die, and the only way out is to die, and in a way it is kind of like a death. So it's heavy sometimes.
But a death can be psychological.
It can be
an
really
ego
good.
Death,
Exactly.
or it can be very physical.
Right.
Ayahuasca and other plants and even breath work, it has a very strong physical effect. With hypnotherapy, we don't have that much of such a strong physical effects. All the way around, you relax. And when you deep relax and your brain get into alpha and theta brain waves, you produce all those good immune system and cells, all of that protection.
I'm really excited to try this, by the way.
It's the most
I need to do it. And maybe we'll do another episode after I do it, if you're up for that.
I just love that technique. So.
It sounds so powerful. I have two friends that have one of whom I've already interviewed on the podcast, Stefan, and I think my friend Justice as well. They both have spoken really highly of their experience with you, really, really highly. So that's really awesome. I am excited to try it soon. And now, out of curiosity,
had a very good experience.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, what was your experience with ayahuasca when you tried it?
With ayahuasca, I think I had a mild experience for what people say. I only had one, so I can't compare.
Right.
Physically, I was totally immobile. I couldn't move like one finger. And I'm very sensitive. I'm already, I don't know how you call it, connected, was born with Kundalini, awakened, however you want to call it. But I sat in meditation in front of the plant before the session started. And I closed my eyes, I meditate, and my whole body started doing this like... And I was like, whoa, I know myself. I know how sensitive I am to all of this. So I talked to the shaman and I told her, I was like, look, I'm very sensitive for these things. I'm already feeling it without drinking. And for me, honestly, music is my medicine. And can I stay here for the music? And she said, no, if you stay with us, you need to drink at least a little bit. And she gave me this little bit while everybody else have one or two of those bits. And I was the first to go and the last to come back. Wow. I was already asking, Mama ayahuasca, bring me back. What the fuck will I ever come back from this trip?
Yeah, you get stuck there for a while.
And I saw all the typical kaleidoscopic psychedelic thing, but I also saw music for the first time when the shaman was playing the guitar, and I saw the music as white waves dissolving the chaos of the thing. And then she said to me, if what you want is unite people through music and gatherings, you're already on your path. You don't need me. I only make sense if it's for healing. And then she went through my body and did some healing. But it was beautiful. I respect. It's so powerful.
Nice.
It's just that I know it's not my path. She even told me.
Yeah. So it sounds like hypnotherapy is your modality of choice if you had to choose one. Is that right?
I think it's from all the tools I offer, and I feel that that's why there's so many modalities in the world, because it's not one modality serves all. It's not one medicine serves all. And I do offer retreats where a person comes to stay with me for 5 days or even more, and they try all of the modalities. And what one person would have that breakthrough on a shamanic meditation and not so much on hypnosis, the other one will have on a hypnotherapy and not on breathwork, or the other one's going to be the other way around. So I can't say. It will depend on the person and the moment. For me personally, I love it.
Right. So what is your commitment behind all this? Because it sounds like there's a commitment there that you have with people, and it's that commitment that's had you acquire all these tools so that you can help someone with something. It sounds like to me. What is that?
I never thought about that, actually.
Okay.
And there's people that comes to me and say, and I have to say that because I always say that it's important for me. I don't consider myself a healer. Okay. And I have a lot of people and clients that comes to me and say, I want to be a healer. Can you teach me? Can you help me? And I always ask them, I want you to ask yourself, who is the one that wants to be the healer? Right? In my case, I never thought about it. I don't want to be a healer. I just put a name out there. What I work is healing arts because I realized that all those modalities are art of healing. But I don't have that. It's hard to explain. I don't do all of that thinking, oh, I want to study this and that or that modality because I want to help people heal.
Definitely doesn't sound like that. Yeah.
No, it's not like that. It's more like a passion, a drive, or something that I just cannot not do it. And I never had like this breakthrough of, oh, I'm working in a bank and I had the ayahuasca ceremony and I realized now I want to be a yoga teacher in the jungle. It was not my case. It's just life guiding me from one thing to the other to the other. I can give an example. It's just like I feel that in the healing arts, I'm like a multi-instrumentalist, a musician. You don't play music because you want to heal others. You just play music because you cannot not play music. And if you play many instruments, you just play many instruments because you love it. It's just like the sun that shines. Doesn't matter if a person is there to receive it or not. So my answer for you in that question is, I don't know. I don't have an answer. I just do because I could not do it.
So when there's like sound healing, for example, you said that was your most recent tool. What in your mind or in your heart, what's it sound like when you're like, oh, okay, I want to do this because it might help me, blah, blah, blah. It
was not like that either. You see, I love music, but I shouldn't say I'm very bad, but I don't have that much talent for music. And I never thought of myself being musician. It's a very challenging thing for me, but it's my greatest passion. And in my yoga classes and massages, I would play an instrument in the end for 5 minutes. And I always been collecting instruments around the world. Now I have. And then was just recently that a good friend of mine asked me, hey, can you play some of your instruments for my yin yoga class? And I said, sure, I can do that. And then she said, yeah, but it's a 1.5 hour class. And I was freaking out. So that was the first time I did 1.5 hour of just sounds. And people love it. And today is one of the most requested tool that I offer. So again, it just came from the universe, from itself. I never thought, now I want to be a sound healer. And I don't consider myself a sound healer, although I had a training on sound healing, sonotherapy, and everything is sound, right? Everything is vibration. It's all together. It's all yoga in the end.
Right.
But I love music and I love sounds. And when I discovered sound healing or sound journeys, it took away the pressure from being a musician. Because you don't really need to be a musician. You're just working with sounds, not music. Although when you have at least a minimum of musical knowledge, it makes more pleasant because a minimum you have to know, right? What crystal ball goes with which, what flute goes with what. But the minimum.
I see. Okay.
It's not like a violin that you need to learn like for 15 years to be a master.
Beautiful. Our dear friend Darren Austin Hall would probably be very, very proud. He's been on the podcast a couple of times himself.
Love him.
Yeah, he's been traveling. He's doing this Europe tour, sharing his beautiful gift of sound. So going back to the question, you gave us this very beautiful, broader explanation as to why somebody, when I asked why would somebody want to speak or connect with their higher self. But I want to come back to that question, right? Because you gave us this broad perspective, right? Which was awesome. Now, going back to the more practical view of it, how can I ask? Well, yeah. Why would somebody want to speak with their higher self?
Why wouldn't you want to live a more fuller, healthier, vibrant, smart way of living?
And that's
That
what
is
the
my
higher self
question.
provides, I guess.
Yeah.
Huh?
Why wouldn't you want to? I'll tell you a little story. I had a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
He's a businessman, a full-on businessman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him a few sessions, and it was a life-changing experience for him. And I remember he called me once so happy, and he said, Kalyani, I was going to this meeting, a very important meeting in my work, and I had this breakthrough that I was having these ideas, and for first time I could realize that was my higher self speaking, and I knew better what path to follow and what to choose from. So the higher self is also the voice of the heart, the gut feeling, the intuition. Was a little bit different. It is and it's not, but you can feel your higher self as that part of you that has the right answers.
I see.
So yeah. When you go right and you go left and you don't know where to go, and then you connect. When the right and the left brain, they merge, they come into coherence, then you're accessing the higher realms. That is also yoga science.
I see.
Yeah.
So now I gather that one of the benefits is like you get to have very insightful clarity as to your direction. Maybe if you're feeling lost, you're not sure where to go in life, your higher self probably just point you in the right direction. That's really cool. I have heard from people in interactions with what they, I think, refer to as their higher self from different modalities also, how that higher self just like very clearly and succinctly communicated when they would ask questions like, why isn't this thing working out for me? I keep trying, like, oh, because blah, blah, blah. And like immediately they're like, oh, wow, okay, So that is really cool. That was a beautiful example that you gave about the woman who couldn't conceive. Is there another example that you could share anonymously that you were inspired by from somebody?
So many.
Is there one that jumps out that comes to mind?
Yes, there's fun stories. I always like to tell the stories because it's quite unusual as well. I had a client that she had lost a jewelry box, a family jewelry box. And I asked her, do you think it was stolen? And she said, no, I know it's in my house. I moved the house I can't find it for 3 years.
In her house?
In her house.
Okay.
American woman, probably wealthy, right? With the jewelry box lost.
She probably needs to go to a declutter specialist. No?
And then she came for a session. Her higher self did not tell her where the box was, but it told her a few other things. But it just, in the end of the session, says, don't worry, you'll find it. 3 days later, she writes to me. After her vacation in Costa Rica and her session with me, she said she was going back home and she was putting her car in the garage and she saw something shining on the shelf on the right. And she looked. It was the jewelry box.
Wow.
That story is mind-blowing. I love it.
So in her session, the higher self shared a bunch of other things as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that you think that you come to a session for one thing, but you find out a lot of other things. So
it's usually how it goes with
for
healing.
instance, another example, I had a client who came to see me because he wanted to stop smoking.
Yeah.
And in this session, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, you can write a list of about 8 questions or themes that you want to ask your higher self directly for. What is my mission in this lifetime? I always say this is the $1 million question. What's my mission in this lifetime? Why did I choose my family? Why did I had this illness when I was 5, etc.? When will I meet the love of my life? Blah, blah. So one of his questions was, I want to stop smoking. So he came mostly for stop smoking. And he could see his deceased mother coming to talk to him. And many things change. And after that, he stopped smoking. So that is a different kind of session, you see.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is that, okay, I can apply all the techniques that all the teachers teach about hypnosis. That is just to help you stop smoking. But if we address just that and not just the root cause of why you smoke in the first place. Maybe you stop smoking but starting biting your nails or eating sugar. So I always like to start with the session, which is more encompassing, so you can discover the root cause of your problems.
Awesome.
So you might think that you come from for something, and you leave with a lot of other information.
Yeah.
And another thing that you see that is common that I see in my work is that the higher self, angels, guides, however you want to call it, they started working on you before session. So I have clients that say, while I was writing my questions to come here, I was already receiving answers.
Oh, wow.
Or, last night I had all these crazy dreams that was very insightful.
Yeah, really interesting. It's actually similar too with plant medicine. Like leading up to it, you already like things start transpiring,
Right.
breakthroughs start happening. Really interesting.
This life is a mystery. I love it.
Yeah. Really, really awesome. I'm really inspired to schedule my session with you. You're heading out soon, no?
Yeah, next week.
Next week.
Just for a few days.
Just for a few days. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it, and would be happy to share about my experience as well. So, what has been like one of your greatest discoveries in your own journey? You know, you definitely sound like you've had a very extensive journey that started very young. You started following a certain path. I don't know if you refer to that as your spiritual path or what. What has been some of your greatest discoveries in your exploration, your pilgrimage?
I feel that I'm 43 now. And I'm very grateful to think that when I look back, when I was a child, when I was a teenage, today I am the woman I always wanted to be. And this is very touching because a lot of us that lives in automatic pilot and work for what our parents expect, for what society expect, they might never have this feeling. I feel so grateful and so privileged that I feel that because of those tools, I have become who I always wanted to be, living in a beautiful place, on the beach, surfing, making my schedule. And it's not that I don't have mind fucks. I have mind fucks. Yeah. But I can use my tools to get out of those mind fucks, maybe with a little more ease than someone that doesn't have the tools. And that's why I say the tools are important. Because if someone has no passion, no hobby, and their life is just like work, or I'm happy because I have a husband, I'm happy because I have a wife, and what happened if your wife die, if your husband die, and you don't have work anymore, and what is your true happiness, So I feel that my work gives me that feeling that I am fulfilling my life purpose.
Yeah. And you've done all this now also while raising a beautiful girl now. I was going to say little girl, but she's not so little anymore.
Yeah, she's leaving home.
How old is she now?
16. She's 16. Going on a 5 months journey right now.
Wow.
With her father.
She's going to go find her pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Pilgrimage. Yeah. How does she relate to all the healing arts?
She's 16. She's coming closer now. But those times, she always say like, "Oh, Mom, I don't like all your hippie stuff."
Oh, your hippie stuff. Of course. It's so funny. It's like the pendulum swings, right?
Of course.
It's so funny.
Although I feel I am very much in the middle,
Yeah.
I did live in alternative communities, hippie communities, however you want to call it, but I'm very much inclined to science and to have a scientific background, and that's why I think it's important to study, to look for the best teachers, and that's what I did. Every time I received that call of, I feel I need to study hypnotherapy now. It's not that I want to be a healer hypnotherapist. No, it's like, this is in your field. And then I go, who are the first teachers? Who are the pioneers? Who are the best of the best? I go to them.
Nice.
And I feel it's very important for us to honor the peoples that walk this path before us, and also find a balance in our profession between the academic world and the non-academic world, because that I am in between, and I have, sometimes people, when I was, for instance, in transpersonal psychology training school, there's a lot of the students that they're psychiatrists and this and that. I'm not. I just have been always this hippie yoga teacher, but so I'm in between the worlds. And I feel these days, all those systems are changing in the world. And one way, yes, there's a lot of charlatans that do 1 month's training, 2 weeks training, and they're very good on social media, whatever, and they make a name for themselves out of nothing. And then there's also in this academic world, people that is very limited. A shaman, a medicine woman, they don't need a certificate in the wall to prove 15, 20 years, 30, 50 years of spiritual practices or scientific practices to heal or to work or to prove their point. So we need to be very cautious, but also open-minded for the facilitators that we work with, that comes into our life. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a fine line.
No, absolutely. I'm actually dealing with this right now because, through Landmark Education, I'm not sure you're familiar with them. They lead transformational programs, and I was very involved in training to be a program leader. I completed an 18-month apprenticeship to lead programs. I spent 6 years there to pretty much studying the art of ontology, which is the art and science of being, right? So there's a lot of programs that stemmed out of that in the last 40 years. But for me, it was amazing because it was transformational, and I saw people create incredible results in their life. And I left 2 years ago realizing that, okay, there's actually another layer that I feel is missing. That an Akashic record reading and an ayahuasca ceremony the following day revealed to me quite clearly. I was like, wow, I didn't even know I've been carrying this pain. And I've had all these ontological tools through this one methodology, but it didn't make a difference in this, So I felt like a strong calling that I needed to focus on that. And for the last year and a half or two, I stopped coaching altogether and just went into my own deeper inner healing journey. And now I've been almost reluctantly flirting with the idea of getting back into coaching. I haven't even promoted myself yet. Clients have already come, and I want to specialize in working with men that want to connect with their hearts and connect with their purpose, and that's a journey that I've been very familiar with now because I've lived it. And so I'm deepening my study of the field of conscious masculinity, men's work, and I've enjoyed reading books like King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Iron John by Robert Bly. And I'm asking myself that very question, like, who are like the elders, who are like the authorities of this work? And I'm like, you can't study like male, like masculine initiation in university. Masculine initiation has been lost as a tradition. So
that's so important.
Yeah. So I've been really looking to see, okay, how do I go about this? Like, I don't want to just be like one more of those coaches that I was like, oh, well, look, I did my process, so now I'm going to teach everybody how to do it, And I'm actually inspired by the idea. Ellanah was the one that pointed out to me. She said, well, when you do a PhD, you write your own thesis and you can write it on whatever you want. So you could get a PhD in masculine initiation, So who knows? Maybe I go back to school, or maybe I find, Robert Bly passed away very recently, or I don't know, find the authorities in the field or something, so I don't know. If you have any pointers, let me know. But I respect a lot what you're saying, because I do see that in just in your resume, and I see it in the way you interact with people, the way you share about it. You're very grounded in the, not just the academic part of it, but in the respect of doing the having the work have substance. Like really grounded in that. So that's really awesome. And that was one of the motivations to have you on here, like I told you before. So that being said, one thing I want to ask you is, what is the thing that you're most passionate about?
Life itself.
Mm-hmm. Can you say more about that?
The journey through life. I really love life.
Mm-hmm.
And all the ups and downs and all what is in between.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I'm passionate with this or that thing. Is it surfing? Is that music? Is that living in nature? Is it the work that I do? No, I'm not my work.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I then? Is the place I live? No, it's not the place I live, because you put me in the city, I might transform and make myself happy there too, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I'm passionate about the mysteries of this experience of living and learning,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing all what life offers.
Beautiful. Okay. Is there anything else that you would love to share to people that maybe are inspired by the idea of pursuing their own inner healing, or just somebody that is just starting to learn about all this? Is there something that you would like to share with them?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, for the listeners now that are getting curious about this whole thing about healing or going into their own pilgrimage, what's something that you could either recommend or would love to share with them?
Yeah. I think the most important message here would be to follow your heart, what makes your heart sing.
Mm-hmm.
Is to see if you're not happy, what is it in your environment, starting with that what can you change and how, taking little steps. Because that also, I see people coming to me and say, I'm not happy anymore in my life. I have everything. I live in the city. I have this great job that pays a good amount of money. I had this breakthrough ayahuasca experience, and I feel like I want to leave everything and change everything, and they feel miserable. And I always tell them that it doesn't need to be this jump from 8 to 80. You don't want to live all the life that you are and thinking that living in the jungle as a poor yoga teacher will solve your problems. Actually, quite the opposite. It can probably bring you a lot of other problems.
Yeah.
So it's to little by little transition. And there is circumstances in life that we feel stuck, that we cannot change. And then I would tell people, then find the tools. Find a hobby, a passion, something, again, that makes you happy, that makes your heart sing. And then search for practitioners, for facilitators that helps you with therapies for you to understand where you need to go and why you're here.
Amazing. Thank you. And I would love to give you the opportunity to share with people how they can connect with you, or perhaps even reach out to you to work with you, because you also offer some things online, right? So how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way would be go to my website, subscribe to the website so you can know about the newsletters. I am also very active on Instagram. I don't know until when. So the best way is to grab the WhatsApp number, subscribe to the website. And yes, I post contents every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays on my Instagram. And then I also do stories every day. I try to be very creative. And
you're really good with your social media.
I do, because I love.
Yeah.
Because you didn't ask that, but before I used to be an actress. So I studied 6 years of theater, and I loved writing, and I love photography. I always say that if I wouldn't be working in what I do, I wanted to be a videographer or a photographer. So from the very beginning of Instagram, I thought it was the best platform. I could share all of that I like, which is videos, photos, writings, image, talking. So it works for me.
Yeah.
But then I tell people that, they say, I need to do for my work, I don't really like. Then hire someone to do that for you if you don't like.
Yeah.
I do because I like.
Yeah.
And when it gets a bit like, now things are changing. So I still do it. I do Instagram and I started TikTok.
Nice.
Just because we also need to share our work so people get to know us.
No,
right?
I mean, marketing and TikTok is taking off. You definitely need to be on TikTok.
I have things on YouTube channel. I also have free meditations on Insight Timer app. So I'm spread it out a little bit. SoundCloud.
Okay. Perfect. So people can follow you on Instagram at Cristina Kalyani, right? That's CristinAKalyani, right? Cristina Kalyani. And your website's CristinaKalyani.com, right? So feel free to reach out to her. This woman is wise beyond her years, and she's got so much to offer. I am very excited for my hypnotherapy session very soon. I can't wait to share with you all about it. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Is there any last words that you want to say in closing?
Yes. Trying to see beauty in everything. That's something I really appreciate, is to create an environment of beauty. And I know that some people have really, really hard lives, and that it's very hard to create. But sometimes little things like bring flowers into your home, create a clear space for, if you don't do meditation, if you don't have a religion, it doesn't matter. Create a little space for you to sit and breathe and connect with that inner voice that speaks, you know. I try to do everything that I do with beauty and with consciousness, with awareness, with love. The food that I cook, the way I talk, or how I walk, or it's like the path of
you
the
do that
business.
really good. You see her coming into the market on Saturdays, and it's like, oh my God, it's like somebody's laying rose petals for you to walk over them. You know, she's walking barefoot into the market with her picnic basket, you know.
That's my Libra Venus.
Yeah.
But
amazing.
yeah, that's something to think about. Our ancestors, they used to say, walk in beauty. And that I feel is very important. It's like when I say I love life and I have passion for life, and I feel not everybody has this appreciation, is that how you pronounce? To the little things, to the beautiful things that is everywhere when you look.
Absolutely.
And you can find even in the city. Even if you live in the city, you can always bring a flower, bring a rose, bring a stone, or a little fountain of water. You know?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful message. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, to Cristina Kalyani. Thank you, Kalyani, for accepting the invitation once again. What a treat it has been to have you on the show. Can't wait to share with everyone. And, you know, take her up on that invitation. How can you create more beauty into your life? All right. So let us know how you're going to do that. Feel free to reach out. We love you, and have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you for listening.
Oh, some witch's brew?
Yes, please. That is all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for being a valued listener. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the podcast in whatever your favorite platform is. You can also watch the video version of the episode on the Love is Our Nature YouTube channel. Check out loveisOurNature.com as well. That's where you can see our latest news and most recent content. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a review, share it with your friends, or email me. I love hearing what you took away for yourself out of listening. My email is Caesar@loveIsOurNature.com. That's CESAR, or Cesar, like my mother says it, at loveIsOurNature.com altogether. Till next time, I'll be here rooting for you. And remember, whatever the question, love is the answer.